Hey, everybody out there. It's Brank again, bringing another guide on BDO, some Black Desert Online. And in this guide, we're going to be going over horses and how to tame horses specifically. I'm actually going to make this a multi-part guide. This is going to be the first part on how to tame and or buy your first horse. And then get started in breeding and training and leveling. So if you're interested in that, check this video out. Okay, so the first thing you want to make is lumps of raw sugar, and that's what's we're going to feed the horse once we are able to tame it. So for the recipe for these is 5 raw sugar, make sure it's raw sugar, and 1 mineral water per. I already had some mineral water on me, so we're just going to mix those two things together using the produce menu and the heat menu, and that's going to give us those lumps of raw sugar. The other thing you need to pick up at the stable manager is taming ropes. I would suggest buying maybe about 10 of those. There's different reasons you're going to miss and what's going to happen, so buy about 10 of those. So now we've got our lumps of raw sugar and our taming ropes. So the next thing we're going to do is get out there and go ahead and find the horses. All right, now that you've got your lumps of sugar and your taming rope, like I said, I would suggest about 10 to 20 taming ropes and about 15 or so, 20 lumps of raw sugar. You're going to look for these areas, and this area that we're looking at here is next to Heidel. It's kind of in between Heidel and Velia. Both of them are to the the west of Heidel and Velia. So you're going to look in those two areas. Now, one thing that you can use as a good point of reference is if you're doing the quest in town, which actually I was doing. I had never done this quest. There's a quest at the stable master in Heidel to tame a wild horse and bring it back to town. You can actually do that, which will map out these areas for you as well. There's also another one just to the left or west of the furthest south dot there. So you can go to any of those areas and look for horses. They're not always going to be available because other players may have picked them up already, or they're just haven't spawned yet. So you might have to go back to these areas a couple times. I think for the most part, if you're looking, depending on don't look during prime time. Obviously, maybe look when there's a little bit more or a little less players on the server. Or also, the other thing you could do is switch servers or switch channels of your server that you're in and see if the horses are available in there. Usually, once you skip through a couple of them, the ones that are not crowded, you're going to be able to find a horse in that area. All right, so now we found a horse. We're out here in the wild. We're going to click our taming rope. Then we're going to walk up to the horse, and the trick with this mini game is the first part is fairly easy. You want to hit the space bar in the good part, right? In the red part, in that first bar. The second part is the harder part, which is where what you want to do, and I've watched a few guides on this, and some of them were a little bit confusing. What you want to do is start moving towards the horse, W. So you push the W button, you start moving towards the horse. If the horse neighs or rears, you doing the mini spacebar game. It's very simple once you have it down. I kind of broke it down into a few different parts, right? The first part is clicking your taming rope, getting close enough to where you see the red reticle on the screen. Then once you see that, you should see the up and down spacebar, the vertical spacebar game, which is where you just want to get in the middle of the red section. And it'll say good. Then you start moving towards the horse. As you see, I just failed there because it just didn't want me to jump on its back. So I'm going to go up and I'm going to try it again. I hit the spacebar. I missed it on that spacebar. This is why we bring a few taming ropes. We don't just do 1 or 2. Once you have this down, it's pretty easy. I mean, it's not too difficult, but there's a lot of things that factor in. See, that one, I actually got it, but the horse had moved just out of range of the rope. So there's a reason we want to bring a bunch of ropes when we're doing this. If we don't have a bunch of ropes, it's going to, be somewhat frustrating. Same thing again. The horse moved just out of range right when I threw the rope. And I'm trying to be careful not to get too close because that'll scare it away, and then it will get further away out of range. Same thing. Horse moved out of range. So I just basically wasted 3 taming ropes on this horse because it keeps moving out of range just as I'm throwing it. So so basically the parts are this mini game, the vertical mini game. I start moving towards the horse. I'm moving towards it. I'm moving towards it. I'm moving towards it. As soon as it starts bucking back, I start the mini game. I start hitting spacebar. And it's not that hard. You just, it's kind of a normal tap on the spacebar. You don't need to be, playing some super fighting game. Then you start moving towards it again. When you're in range like this, you're going to hit the F1 button and then hit your lumps of sugar that you made in town. I suggest using about 5 lumps of sugar. They're not very expensive, so, they're a little bit expensive, but they're not super expensive. I would suggest using 5 lumps of sugar, then trying to mount the horse. If you immediately try to mount the horse, you can do that, but it's a higher chance to succeed if you feed it some lumps of sugar first. So the 3 steps, right? The vertical spacebar mini game, move in and normal spacebar mini game, then feeding it lumps of sugar, jumping on its back. There we go. We tamed the horse. Now, the only thing we have to do is bring it back to town to the stable master and register that horse, kind of like you would register if you've registered it, like the donkey when you first got that, which is one of the first things. You get the little letter and you can register the donkey. So once we're at the stable master, we can register this horse, put it in our stable, and prepare for, leveling it up, which is going to be the next part of this series of horse training. Now, your other option, after you've registered that horse, your other option and your last option is to just buy a horse. So you go to stable, and then you go to horse market, and see what horses are available. Now, this obviously is going to cost a lot more money, but if you're not interested in taming a horse at all, this would be your other option. Now, the things you want to look for on here is a few things. Level, obviously tier, and if it has any breedable count on it. Because if we're using this to breed higher tier horses, obviously we need to be able to the breeding count higher. Unless we want to spend pearl shop money to reset the breeding counter. But I always look for, whatever tier I'm looking for. If I'm looking for a tier 2, if I have a tier 2 male to mate, or I have a tier 3 female to mate, I'll look for, the opposite. Obviously, the male symbol's the blue, the purple, pink symbol's the female. And then look at their breedable counter. So you can sort on this list by tiers, and you'll notice as you go up in the tiers, there's less and less available. Obviously, people are taming them, but they're keeping them for themselves. And the higher tier you get into, the harder they are going to be to find. And sometimes this is kind of a mini game in and of itself, because you're trying to find, the right horse that you want to tame with. So you kind of want to have the right tier, and you also want to have the right, obviously sex, and it has to have higher than 0 breedable count. So those are the 3 things to keep in mind when you're looking at this: breedable count, tier, and level. The level is going to make a difference, not just, when you're buying it, it's going to cost a lot more, but it's also maybe a little bit easier to get to that point. To where you're going to be able to breed them. And I'm going to post a link down below of the site that I use that actually tells you, you use the information to put in what level your horse is, what tier your horse is, and then it tells you what types of horses you have the possibility of getting when you breed those 2 horses together, right? So you put in your male and your female. You say this one is tier 3, this one's tier 4, this one's level 20, and this one's level 25. And it'll show you the successful rate of getting certain tiered horses. And it's been pretty accurate for me. I've been able to, kind of know exactly what level I need to get my horses to. Rather than just level them all the way up to 30, I'm going to try to level them to exactly what this site that they've used, gathered a lot of this data for, to be able to tell me exactly what level I need to get those horses to, depending on what tier they are. So that's it for this particular guide. That shows you how to basically get started. You know how to either tame your first horse or go ahead and buy your first horse. Once you have that accomplished, congratulations, you're on your way. Start leveling that horse up, even if you don't know, exactly what you're going to breed it with yet. Obviously, you're going to need a male and a female, but start leveling that horse up, because it can't hurt to level, a tier 1 or a tier 2 horse up to max, and it's fairly easy at the lower levels, and it will get progressively harder as you get into the higher tiered horses. It requires more and more XP. So kick back, enjoy your new horse. We'll be coming at you sometime soon with the next part of this video, which is going to include the actual breeding of the horses, and then the skills of the horses. So we're going to be covering breeding and skills of the horses in the next video. So as always, if you guys have any comments or suggestions, please leave them in the comments below. I leave that open because I'd like to hear your guys' feedback. If you guys have enjoyed these videos, please subscribe and hit the like button. It helps us out, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks a lot.